All right, so let's just take a second to review. To solve an equation involving a radical, you're going to first isolate the radical and then square both sides of the equation. And when we get an answer, we're going to check to see if there's any extraneous solutions that don't actually check out to be the answer. All right, so here we go. Example 2b, I guess this is. So here, you can see my radical right here. Here's my equal sign. I also have this 2 over here on the left side that I need to remove so that this is isolated. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and I'm going to be left with the square root of a minus 3 is equal to 7 subtract 2 is 5. So now I'm going to square both sides of that equation. So I'm going to take the left side and square it, and I'm going to take the right side and square it. So when I square the radical, the a minus 3 comes out, and 5 to the second power is 25. So once I get here, now I need to solve it for a. So to solve for a, I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I will end up with a is equal to 28. So once I get this, I want to double check and make sure that it works. So I'll put a 28 in here for a. So 28 minus 3 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. So I get 5 plus 2 is 7, and that does check, and I have an answer. All right, so in this particular problem here, we had to isolate the radical first. All right, so example C, we are going to solve this one, and you can see in this problem that the radical doesn't have anything else over here to get rid of. So we're good on step 1. Now we're ready to square both sides. So I'm going to have x squared is equal to the square root of x plus 20 squared. And when I square this, the x plus 20 comes out of the radical, and then this is just x squared here. So you got to be careful. If I'm squaring the x, I get x squared. But if this is inside the radical, when I square it, it just brings everything out as is. All right, now I need to solve, but this time notice we have a second power. So anytime we have a quadratic, a second power, to solve it, we need to have, because of this here, we need a 0 on one side. So I am going to, I think what I'll do is I'm going to subtract the x, and I'm going to subtract the 20 from both sides, so that what I end up with then is x squared minus x minus 20, and then here I'm going to end up with 0. So I want a 0 on one side so that I can come up with a solution. Notice I didn't take my x squared over, even though that would have been a little bit easier. Why? Because it would have made my x squared negative, and I want my x squared positive. All right, so I've got 3 terms. I can use the AC method, and I can do the short one because there's no number right here. So I'm going to do the short AC. So 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 20 and add to be a negative 1 would be a negative 5 and a positive 4. So this would give me then x plus 4, x minus 5 is equal to 0. Then we'll take each factor and set it equal to 0, and then subtract 4 here and gives me x is negative 4. Add 5 here, it gives me x is 5. So now we want to check it. So I'm going to check, and so I'm going to take negative 4, I'm going to put it into the original. So negative 4 is here and negative 4 is here. So negative 4 plus 20 is 16, and the square root of 16 is positive 4. Positive 4 does not equal negative 4, so this one gets thrown out. It is called extraneous. I'm going to write extraneous here. Now let's check the 5. Sometimes both of them don't work, so let's check the 5. I'm going to put a 5 here and a 5 here. So I get the square root of 5 plus 20. So the square root of 25 is 5, and that does equal 5. And so this one is an answer.